I stepped out into the driveway that morning with a warm mug of coffee in my hands, expecting nothing more than a peaceful start to my day. But the empty spot where my car should have been hit me like a slap. I blinked.
Once. Twice. Gone.
Mom, I called out, slowly walking back inside. She was at the kitchen counter, casually scrolling through her phone, completely unbothered. "Oh, that old thing," she said without even looking up. "I sold it." My heart dropped. "You sold my car?" She looked at me like I was being dramatic. "You hardly used it, Emily. It was just collecting dust. You'll thank me later." I froze, my fingers tightening around the coffee mug. I didn't speak, not yet. Not because I was okay with it, but because something in me had just snapped. And I knew then, something was about to change for both of us. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 24 years old, recently graduated, and finally starting to get some stability after years of juggling part-time jobs and college classes. That car, it wasn't just a vehicle. It was my reward. My escape. My proof that I could do things on my own. I bought it with my own money. Not a single dollar from my mom. I remember working shifts at a local diner, 4 to midnight, then dragging myself to 8 a.m. lectures the next morning. I skipped vacations, birthday outings, even sleep. All for that car. A silver 2010 Honda Civic. Nothing flashy, but reliable, sturdy, like me. I washed it every Sunday. Changed the oil myself. That car was my pride. It was freedom. It was mine.
But my mom never really saw it that way.
To her, I was still the little girl who once forgot her umbrella in the rain. I think she wanted to believe I couldn't handle adult life without her. She's always had this overbearing streak. Controlling, but she masks it with that passive-aggressive sweetness. She's the kind of person who'll bake you cookies while canceling your decisions behind your back. Growing up, she always made my choices for me, from what I wore to which electives I could take. And if I pushed back, "You're being ungrateful," she'd whisper, or worse, say nothing at all, just a disappointed stare like I'd committed a crime. Grandma Ruth used to say, "Honey, there's love in her, but it's locked behind her need to control everything." And Grandma was right. She passed away 2 years ago, and ever since then, my mom's behavior had only intensified. Still, I tried to be patient. I stayed home longer than I wanted to because she said it would help us both save. I kept my voice soft when she overstepped. But selling my car? That crossed a line she couldn't step back over. Because this time, she didn't just disrespect my decision, she erased it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't scream. Instead, I walked to my room, opened my desk drawer, and pulled out a slim blue folder. It held every document connected to that car, purchase receipts, maintenance records, and most importantly, the title. Under registered owner, it clearly read, Emily Carter. Not my mother. I walked back into the kitchen where she was still scrolling through her phone like she hadn't just shattered my trust. "Actually," I said, setting the folder down gently in front of her, "you might want to take a look at this before we continue." She barely glanced up until her eyes caught the bold black letters on the title. Her face changed. "What is this?" she asked, already knowing. "It's proof," I said calmly, "that the car was never yours to sell." She went pale. "But I thought it was under my name."
"No, Mom."
"You just assumed." I slid another paper across the table, a tracking report from the insurance company. I'd activated GPS the day I bought the car. She looked up at me, mouth slightly open, and for the first time in a very long time, she was speechless. "You're overreacting," my mom finally said, her voice low, shaky, but still laced with that familiar condescension. "It's just a car, Emily. I did it for your own good." There it was. For your own good. I stared at her. "Do you hear yourself right now? You sold something that wasn't yours. That I worked for. That I paid for. And you didn't even bother to tell me." She slammed the folder shut like that would make the evidence go away. "You've been living under my roof." I figured. "What's yours is ours." "No, Mom," I said sharply. "That's not how it works anymore. I'm an adult. You don't get to erase my independence because it makes you uncomfortable."
She scoffed.
"Oh, So now you're going to start throwing legal papers in my face like I'm some criminal? I don't have to. You did that to yourself. Just then, my older brother Daniel walked in. He lived a few streets away, but often came by in the mornings. He paused when he saw the tension thick in the room.
What's going on? He asked.
She sold my car, I said, not taking my eyes off Mom. Without telling me. Daniel blinked. Wait, you did what? Mom folded her arms. I thought we could use the money for a few house repairs. And she never drives it anymore. That's not true, I snapped. I drive it every weekend to my part-time gig and for job interviews. I need that car. Daniel looked at her, eyebrows drawn tight. Mom, you can't just sell her stuff. That's actually insane. I gave her everything, she cried suddenly, as if that justified it. Food, shelter, a place to sleep. And this is how she treats me? Like a thief. She turned to me again, voice trembling. You're turning Daniel against me now. No, I said quietly. You're doing that all by yourself. Her face hardened. I've sacrificed for you, Emily. Everything I've done has been to protect you from making stupid decisions, like buying that useless old car when you could have saved that money for grad school. I'm not you, Mom, I finally shouted, the dam breaking. I don't want your version of my life. I want mine. Even if I make mistakes, at least they'll be mine. Daniel stepped closer to me. Emily, if you want, I can help you track the buyer. We'll sort this out. She shouldn't get away with this. My mom looked stunned. She had always expected Daniel to be on her side. He usually was, but not this time. And that made her panic. You don't understand, she said to both of us now, tears starting to fall. Ever since your dad left, I've been doing this alone. I don't know how to let go. I thought if I could manage things like before, everything would be okay. I saw her pain. I saw the fear behind the control. But it didn't excuse it. I'm sorry you feel that way, I said, softening only slightly, but you can't keep making decisions for me out of fear and calling it love. She sat down heavily in the chair, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Daniel placed a hand on my shoulder. You've got us now. We'll make this right. And in that moment, I realized something even more important than getting the car back. I wasn't alone in this anymore. The next day, I filed a police report, not to press criminal charges against my mother, but to document that the car had been sold without my permission. The officer was kind but firm, explaining that, even though it was a civil matter, having a record would help me legally reclaim the vehicle if needed. With Daniel's help, I contacted the buyer. He was a middle-aged man named Rob, who had found the listing on a neighborhood app. He seemed decent, and more importantly, shocked when I explained the situation. She didn't mention anything about not owning the car, he told me, and to my surprise, he agreed to meet and talk things through. That evening, I met Rob in a grocery store parking lot. I brought all the documents, my title, insurance, registration. I'm sorry, he said sincerely. I paid in cash and only got a handwritten receipt. This makes sense now. Look, I'll give you the car back. You don't owe me anything. I'll just write this off as a lesson learned. I was stunned by his kindness. At least let me pay you back for the hassle. He shook his head. Some things are more important than money, like setting things right. By the time I drove my car back into the driveway, it felt different. Not just like a vehicle, but a piece of my soul I had fought for. Earned again. Inside the house, things were quiet. My mom had barely spoken a word since our blow-up. But that night, she knocked on my door. She held a photo of us, me at around 8, with cake on my nose, and her beaming beside me. I found this while cleaning, she said softly. I forgot how much we used to laugh. I sat on the edge of my bed, watching her. I've been thinking a lot, she continued, voice trembling. And I realized I never taught you how to trust yourself. I only taught you how to listen to me. That's not what mothers are supposed to do. Her eyes brimmed with tears. I'm sorry, Emily. I really thought I was helping, but I was wrong. For the first time in a long time, I saw the woman behind the mother. Vulnerable. Tired. Willing to be accountable. I nodded slowly. I forgive you, but things have to change. She nodded back. They will. The next few weeks weren't perfect, but they were honest. We had conversations we'd avoided for years, about boundaries, about the grief she carried after Dad left, about how much I craved freedom but still wanted connection.
And Daniel?
He became the unexpected glue. He'd stop by often now, sometimes just to sit with us both, bridging gaps that had grown far too wide. Then came a surprise I hadn't expected. Lisa, my childhood friend who I had lost touch with after high school, reached out. She had heard from Daniel about everything. She, too, had grown up with an over-controlling parent and had recently moved out to reclaim her own life. "Your story made me realize I've been too afraid to stand up for myself," she told me over coffee. "But watching you do it, it gave me courage." We talked for hours, like no time had passed. And that moment made something click for me. This fight wasn't just about the car. It was about voice. And I wasn't the only one who had lost hers over the years. The more I shared my story, the more people, friends, coworkers, even strangers online, opened up about similar struggles. I began writing small reflections, posting about boundaries, self-worth, healing, and people listened. Within months, I'd started a small support circle for young women navigating independence while living in complicated family systems. Each week, a few more joined. Each week, someone cried for the first time, and someone else smiled with relief. I still lived at home, but it wasn't because I was trapped. It was because I had chosen to stay a little longer, to help my mom adjust, to give our bond a second chance. But this time, the rules were different. Respect was mutual. And love wasn't something used to control. It was something that let you go, and cheered when you came back. 6 months later, the house felt lighter. The air no longer carried the tension of unspoken words. There were no slammed doors or sarcastic jabs cloaked in fake smiles. My mom had started therapy, a quiet, powerful decision she made without telling anyone. She simply came home one day, placed a small counseling brochure on the kitchen counter, and said, "I want to be better." I hugged her that night, not out of obligation, but out of genuine love. We were becoming something new. Not the perfect mother-daughter pair we once pretended to be, but something more honest. 2 women learning to understand each other. The garage now held 2 cars, my silver Honda Civic, back in its rightful place, and my mom's own compact sedan. She'd never admitted it out loud, but I think having her own vehicle again helped her see the separation between our lives a bit more clearly. We weren't fused anymore. We had space, and space created healing. I had moved my bedroom upstairs, redecorated it with soft cream walls, potted plants, and sunlight pouring through sheer curtains. I got a part-time job at a youth mentorship nonprofit. My support group had grown to over 30 members. We met every Saturday morning in the community center's back room. Young women like me, some fresh out of controlling homes, others still struggling inside them. We drank tea, we cried, we laughed about things that used to feel like chains. Lisa joined the group as a co-host. She had started training in social work. She told me once, "Emily, what happened with your mom? It wasn't just a story, it was your starting line." I smiled. It really was. One of my favorite meetings was the day we talked about first wins. Not the big stuff, but small victories. Setting boundaries. Saying no. Standing up for ourselves. When it was my turn, I held up the keys to my car and said, "My first win was fighting for something that was already mine, but realizing I was worth the fight." Applause echoed through the room, soft but steady. Even Daniel showed up to a session once. He sat in the back, listening to women talk about how difficult it was to navigate family without losing themselves. Afterward, he told me, "You're doing something incredible, Em. You're building something way bigger than a car. You're building a movement." He wasn't wrong. Later that month, we held a potluck picnic at the park, a mix of group members, a few of our moms, even some younger girls from the local high school. My mom came too. She brought Grandma Ruth's apple pie recipe and stood there nervously beside me, unsure of her welcome. But when she saw the way people looked at me, with respect, with admiration, something in her shifted. She whispered, "I always knew you'd be something special. I just didn't know how to let go." I squeezed her hand. You're letting go now. And that's enough. As the sun dipped behind the trees, casting a golden light over the grass, I thought about how much had changed.
How much I had changed.
I wasn't just the girl who lost a car. I was the woman who reclaimed her voice. I was no longer seeking approval. I was creating my own path. And as I sat beside people who had once felt voiceless too, sharing food and stories and laughter, I felt something Grandma Ruth once told me echo in my heart. Real strength doesn't come from silence. It comes from standing up, speaking out, and still choosing love when you have every right to walk away. I looked around at that picnic, at my mom handing pie to a teenage girl whose eyes lit up, at Lisa laughing in the sunlight, at a younger me who might have never imagined this life, and I smiled. I had chosen strength. I had chosen peace. And for the first time in a long time, I was truly free.